I had a question about tools and what I use for tools. My boarding tools are mainly CC Specialty. This is my spare MGD1. That's my laptop. This is a cheap Chinese, you know, lathe mill drill combo type thing here. It ain't much good for anything, but any one thing in particular. You know, the mill ain't as good as it should be, and the lathe ain't as good as it should be, but it does all right for whatever I really need it for. And if I need something done, you know, more accurately, you know, I got my big lathe I do most of my work on, but I do use this thing. It's nice for little stuff, you know. Drill press. This is my work area, my light. Foot pedal sits down here. Been putting the camera in the camera stand. These are my hand pieces. This one's a very special hand piece. This is very expensive to set up and put together, but this runs extremely smooth. The bearings in this are very, very smooth. And I have a kind of a special bit in there for doing my carburetor work. That's about the only thing that gets used for. Very expensive. I've got a couple extra hand pieces down here. I do use some Dremel tools. These are cut-off wheels. This is that special bit that I use for carburetor work. This is the one that I use primarily on like muffler work. And then these also all come from CC Specialty. And I can get these all in extended lengths if I want them. And that's what I'm showing here. This is my favorite shape, but I very rarely will use an extended bit. Using this at full length is almost impossible to not bend this shaft. But it does give me the option of cutting it off a little longer than these to get just a little bit more reach out of it than I can with a standard one. So I do have those in several different ones. This is my favorite shape for 99% of my work. I use this one some of the time, this one some of the time. These are aluminum hogs. These are double bit in the same shapes. I do have the round one in a double bit. And then this is a diamond burr that I use mainly for chamfering and cleanup work. And I have a whole box full of bits. But this is the last one of these that I have. And I buy it from CC Specialty. I've tried some from other manufacturers, and the shape was slightly different than what I wanted, and they tended to plug up faster. So I just went back to CC Specialty. It's not always about price. Sometimes you got to have what works, and these just work better, so I don't worry too much about the price. If it's $2 difference in cost of porting a saw, I really don't care. So, of course, my vise I made, this was my prototype. And back over there in brown boxes, I have 5 more for sale. And they are a little nicer than this one. This one does work, but it was my prototype. I don't have all this square stuff, and it's a little smaller. More adjustability in them than this, and yeah, I based them off of this one when I built this one. And so that's my main tools there. You know, I got my lathe back here in the corner. I got another drill press here, bench grinder. You know, up there I have a welding bench and air compressor. You know, I got 2 vices in there. I got torches, and here's my square grinder, Sylvie square grinder, set up here for sharpening chains. Otherwise, my shop's pretty well plugged up here with a whole lot of junk. I got some boxes of spare parts. This is my band mill, band sharpener, and the setter sitting here. There's videos of me running this stuff. Bench has kind of gotten plugged up with a lot of junk, but this is not my building. I just allowed to work in here. It's free rent, so why not, right? Don't have much heat in here, so I run some propane heaters. I'll have better heat in here later, but this is a motor I've been running now. It's probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 years old. I've been porting saws for almost 30 years. I've completely wore out, I don't know, maybe 4 of these. And this one is getting growly. I think I've put brushes in it 2, maybe 3 times. And it's probably about done for. That's a brand new one, you know, hanging over there. This one quits, then that one's here to use. And I always keep a spare. I don't have time to wait a week for a motor to get here. So another thing is that when you're running your foot pedals, put a plastic bag over it, tie it on there. I do have spares of those as well. The metal gets in there, it shorts them out, and then you got to put a new circuit board in them. They're not sealed. So, but yeah, there's, you know, bits are probably average $20, $25 a piece, something like that. I don't pay much attention. I do get some decent life out of them, so, you know, but I am running out of my favorite one, this one here. I think I have 2 left of that, and I only have this one new diamond burr left, so I'll be ordering bits before too long. What else? My hand tools, you know, just basic tools here that I use every day. The tools I use the most, almost every day, stay right on the bench. And then I have specialty tools. This is my seal puller with my block off tools and stuff. These are splitting tools for steel. These are some handles in here for changing mounts in the older Husky Johnsons, like the 272s and whatever. And then them are custom made seal drivers, bearing drivers, that kind of stuff. Lots of specialty stuff around, and you know, another box of parts. And of course, in the other building, I still have, you know, old stock parts that we never sold. So that stuff's still around, but not a lot of it. I'm over there every day picking something out of it, but I'm getting it whittled down. So that's basically the deal on the tools. CC Specialty, they treat me very well over the years. Lots of information from them. They're great people to work for, or work with, I mean. And I do a lot with them. All my blocks for setting squish and, you know, sanding blocks that I have my lines and I can mark my ports out on them. That's what this drawer is. Lots of that kind of stuff. And this stuff all wears out in time, and I have to have winter and summer because of the humidity change. They swell and shrink, so I've got to have 2 of each to make it work. Lots of fun stuff. And of course, I got a toolbox here, you know. Can't even get it all in a picture here, but and it's dirty from me working in here. And of course the welders are over there as well. I have MIG and TIG. Nothing big and expensive, but they're there, MIG and TIG. One on top of the other, 2 tanks in the back. I torch set. I've got other welders. I got an old stick welder sitting back here. It works great. Got my old Hobart that I really like that needs a computer or whatever put in it. I would like to have that one back and working someday, but lots of tools, lots of little things, but shop's a little too small for everything I got going on here. Got a beautiful gun cabinet back here. I forget how many guns it holds. Got 3 doors to it. I got it covered up somewhat. And I would love to sell this thing to somebody that would really truly appreciate what it is. It's all black walnut, and I built it and used it for quite a few years, but I don't have no place to put it anymore. It sits in here, and that's a shame. But at this point, I'd like to sell it to anyone interested in it. Let me know. Work out a price, but I'm not going to give it away. It's too nice for that. So anyways, I guess that's about all I got to say about tools. You know, this is a cutter. I got all those over here too. I guess I can show you all of that. You know, all my mandrel stuff is over here. You know, all mandrels. Here's another vise. I'm short one piece on it, so I didn't finish that one. But table here, my back there's what do you call it for the lathe. Here's another chuck. I got a couple more chucks down there, and you know, lathe tools on top of the lathe. Lots of dial indicators around this place. I use dial indicators all the time, and I set them up for a certain chore, and I leave them that way and go buy another one if I need to use it for something else. So I got a press in here, little press. So I can do just about anything here. If I can't handle it, I know somebody who can. So it's not always what you know, but who you know. So anyways, on to the next one. Moving on to the carburetor. I don't know if I really recommend this to too many people. It's touchy work, and it's really easy to mess this up. What I'm doing is thinning the shafts on the carburetor. If you go too far, it makes the shaft weak. You don't want to make the shaft weak, so you can take some off the shaft. But if you grind into the body of the carburetor, you're gonna mess it all up. So it's a delicate thing to do here. Patience. The other thing I do is I take out any of the casting flash that's in the Venturi. They all have a little in there, and all I'm really trying to do is clean up that casting flash. Carburetor, you know, the Venturi should be nice and smooth, and you know, they all have casting flash in them from when they're cast, and you know, even a carburetor is a cast part and then machined. So I try to clean up that casting flash, thin out the throttle shafts, and on some saws thinning the shafts out, some saws it don't. So it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. I do it the most, but not all. But I do clean up the Venturi on almost all. So that's what I'm working on. And you'll be able to not be able to really watch what I'm doing because it's a small part. I'm going to be hiding it when I'm working on it. But that's what I'm doing. On any kind of a work saw, I don't worry about the screws, you know, that are holding the shutter in there, butterfly in there. But they kind of all out full-blown race saw, you're probably never going to take the shafts or the shutter out of one. So you can take and you can solder the butterfly to the shaft, and you can remove the screws, solder the hole shut, and you can thin the whole thing, and you'll gain just a little bit. And it ain't so much volume, it's disturbance of the air that you'll gain by doing that. You gain a little volume, but it's more disturbance of the air, you know, making it the air flow through there better. And most anything for a race saw, you would remove the whole choke system on it. Give it a little shot of gas to start it. No choke, no air filter, no nothing generally. I don't run an air filter on a race saw. I'm not that concerned about it. It's not like it's getting, 1,000 hours on it. Some guys think that Venturi needs to be perfectly round in there, but I used to take a lot out of the Venturi And it don't need to be round. It still does the same, has the same effect. And does the same thing. It's there to create a low pressure to draw the fuel through the carburetor. So you got to have a Venturi to do that. And you know, the whole idea works. But that Venturi doesn't have to be that perfect circle. It really doesn't matter. You know, it could be square. It's still a Venturi. You just don't want to overdo it, because if you take it completely out, then you lose that low pressure signal, and it has more of a problem idling than anything, or right off from throttle, you know, from idle. Some guys pull the guys that do this, they pull the whole shaft out, and then they thin it, you know, in a mill or something, and thin it. And I've done that, but it's really, when they put these carburetors together, this is a one-time use type deal. You know, you stick that screw in there, and the screw split on the back side, and then it's widened out, right? And that's to keep the screw in there, doesn't fall out, go through your motor. And if you try to take that screw out, it generally pulls all the threads out of the shaft, and you can't put the same screw back in because it won't go back in the hole because it's flared out yet. If you try to reach in there and squeeze that and narrow it up, you screw up the threads, and that takes the threads out. So it's really just a one-time use type thing. And if you're going to do it that way, you know, I would recommend new shafts, new screws. But, or solder it back together when you put it back together. But you need to, you know, if I was going to solder this together, I would solder it together before I took the screw out. And Then I would take the screw out and I would solder the hole shut. That would smoothen everything out. But I don't know. I even know a few guys that actually either make new shutters or that actually thin the shutter itself to try to get more airflow through. One thing I've done is I've bored the choke side out bigger, made my own shutters to try to get more air in to the Venturi, and generally that works. And you can do bigger shutters on both ends if you want, and enlarge the Venturi and actually enlarge the capacity of the carburetor. And you got to rejet everything when you do that. Sometimes I have to rejet the carburetor when I do this on the fixed jet side of stuff, not the adjustments. And these adjustments are only adjusting 20% of the fuel that's going in the motor. The fixed jets do 80%, and these do approximately 20%. Gives you a finer adjustment. Modern carburetors anyway. So that's about all I do to this. It's pretty well ready to go, and we're going to be putting this thing all back together here. I think I got all the parts done that I want. I had a couple other things to talk about as I put it together, but that's where we're at on this. That's basically what I do with carburetors. You know, if I have to drill jets, I'm drilling the main jets. I'm not drilling the secondary, or the, you know, the screws. Sometimes we have to, the main jet can be drilled out with a little wire drill, you know, wire sizes. So, I don't know what else to talk about on carburetors here, you know, there's a lot of different carburetors, a lot of different things that go wrong with carburetors, but this one's brand new. I don't even have to open it up and look at it. Shouldn't have to anyway. We'll put this all together, and we'll see how it runs.